existence. While the Sarah Serem-led commission takes pride in lifting the veil on the salaries of public service employees and in rationalizing wage disparities, it has been unable to tame the wage bill. In the current financial year, for instance, the wage bill is projected to rise to 650 billion shillings, or 52% of the annual government revenues. We talked to the outgoing chair of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, Sarah Serem, on the big question tonight, and we ask, do you think SRC has lived up to its expectations? Let's hear from you. Text us on 22422 and use the hashtag The Big Question on Twitter. I'll take a look at a few graphics here very quickly just to show you how it's been rising. This was actually from SRC today, Serem's speech herself. 2012-2013, 465 billion shillings. That was the wage bill then. 2015-2016, 11% increase to 627 billion. 2017-2018 projected, this current financial year, it will be 650 billion shillings. Well, thank you so much, Sarah Serem, for making time for us this evening. Talking about this wage bill, and first, now that you're projecting 650 billion for the next financial year, in July 2017, you announced a 2017 to 2022 salary structure effective after the August election. And where state officials and lawmakers will now pocket lower salaries and the rest, you said you will save 8 billion shillings annually. So one wonders what has changed since now you've projected the wage bill to actually go up, yet you're saying you're going to save 8 billion annually. What happened?
I think you will need to appreciate to saying that wage bill is a factor of two variables. One is the value and the other one is the numbers. Whereas SRC has been able to moderately manage the issue of the value in terms of money towards each of the employees within the public sector. There is the other aspect of the numbers. And if you checked between the point of the devolved structures coming in and now, the numbers have gone up. And that in itself is a direct impact on the wage bill itself. Secondly, you all know that we undertook a job evaluation. What was the object of job evaluation? We wanted to bring close down on disparities, bring the issue of value for every job that is being undertaken within the public sector. Part of that, in curing it, meant that there will be some employees that will gain out of the job evaluation exercise. And so, in itself, and if you notice what we gave in as the cost of carrying out the job evaluation, there was a whole 85 billion that needed to be expended towards adjusting the salaries that were on the lower levels and curing the disparities that were existing. And we did mention, we had this disclaimer at the very beginning that yes, for anything to cure, it will cost funding. And that is part of the corrections that we have undertaken. Yet I would be very quick to state once again that in the absence of the strategies that SRC took, in the absence of the framework that we established, the situation would have certainly been worse than it is now.
Currently, that's what you believe. Okay, but when you talk about these numbers as being another aspect here, when you were saying you're going to save this 8 billion annually, didn't you factor in these numbers, or are these numbers that they keep on rising until now?
It is still rising as we are talking.
Is it something you've advised against?
Absolutely, we wrote that. We did letters to all the employing agencies of the government, both at the county and at the national level, that yes, we were out here working and looking at the issues of wage bill, but there is one other factor that's even more critical in terms of, contribution to the wage bill factor, and that was the numbers. So I remember at the national government that there was a freeze on recruitment. But if you checked back
they kept on recruiting.
There was a recruitment.
And you advised against this?
We did advise against that. But Hussein, you have to appreciate also, we do not have any mandate towards the numbers. Ours is purely the value, but the numbers is undertaken by another team altogether.
Numbers, you mean both national and county governments?
Both national and county government.
Okay, very briefly, when you're talking about lowering, or I mean the salary structure, the 2017-2022 salary structure, we don't have the capacity sometimes to tell whether it has been affected. Just for our viewers, has this been affected?
Absolutely.
Especially for state officers?
It was affected for the state officers that came into office after the new government came in. They entered with the new salary structure. That is what is applicable and obtaining currently. Okay.
You have enumerated some issues why it has not been easy, but ultimately your commission, and I mean getting even from the mandate, constitutional mandate, set and regularly review the remuneration and benefits of all state officers, among others, and the need to ensure that the total public compensation bill is fiscally sustainable. Your commission is ultimately responsible for taming the wage bill. You've said time and again that international standards, the best, require that a country's wage bill must be below 35% of the revenues. I mean, Kenya hasn't gotten there and didn't get there. It's work in progress, but didn't get there during your 6th term in office. Some would actually say, or would argue, this is failure on your part.
I would say far from it. This is something that has happened, I would say, since independence. We've been talking about disparities. We've talked about setting the remuneration without due regard to the wage bill, the impact on the economy. We came in when the wage bill itself was already unsustainable. And obviously what you all understand is we cannot bring salaries down for those employees who are already in the system and have permanent and pensionable jobs. So it needed an exercise, a whole encompassing exercise that will be looking both at the issue of numbers, at the issue of the values, but more importantly, the aspect of productivity. That is part of the strategy that needs to be undertaken by all the employing agencies in terms of coming up with performance management systems that will put into account every employee that is deployed within the resources of the government. Because I think it's not just the issue of the amounts, it's not just the numbers, but the productivity levels are also very low.
Okay. So you don't think at any, I mean, even looking at how it's still been rising, the wage bill, of course you've explained, you don't regret anything, you don't feel you failed in any way in terms of taming the wage bill?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Under the circumstances and with the challenges that we had and the fact that we had to set the systems in place, it was necessary that we did what we did. And I don't see any other situation that would have been obtaining other than what we did as SRC.
One of the issues in the news today, and we saw Deputy President there today, he said and lamented the rising number of advisors had by the cabinet and governors. Has this bothered you, and as a commission, have you talked about this? Has this bothered you? Or does it even bother you?
Many things have bothered us about employment. We did right and we gave advice in the number of support staff that ought to work within the governor's office. And I would be surprised to get to the ground and realize that that is not complied. But that was not our job. Indeed, we do not handle the issue of establishment. We don't handle the issues of organizational structures in terms of how many people should work. But we found it necessary, you know, as a commission, considering that this had an impact on the wage bill, to also give that advice. And I would say the first team of governors, a number of them really complied with what we advised. But there are those that went out of the way, and you're talking of just advisors. But there are many other staff that were employed. You would find in some counties employing as many as 200 in numbers. If you looked at the Nandi report recently, you find there were those who are not even directly on the payroll, but they were being paid under the remuneration structures of the county. So these are some of the efforts that need to be, you know, addressed, and I did advise
on that.
Even the Deputy President, we did discuss that, and I said you need to engage and have a conversation around, you know,
around
these
that
issue structures.
You okay, from what you're saying is you wish you had this mandate.
I wish I had that mandate.
So would you wish, or would you say the next team should have this mandate? Is it something you should?
Maybe not. That would, the scope would be too wide. But I would prefer that we have another legal framework that is focusing purely on the issues of structures. I know the Public Service Commission undertakes that role, but for the national government, it will be necessary to have another system that focuses purely on the structures within the counties. You are aware that there are county public service boards at the county. But I am not sure that we have felt the professionalism at this level, because ideally they are supposed to be the employers. They're supposed to be determining the requirements, the human resource requirement at the county level. But as to their effectiveness in focusing at the aspect of the optimum numbers within the county, I am not sure that has been felt.
Okay. It hasn't been an easy journey for you and the commissioners. You talked about it today. Let's take a listen to a bite here, sound bite rather, by Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki first.
You and the team that you led. I'm reminded of a gentleman who comes from close to your village, the chair. And when things were really very bad and everybody thought we should disband this thing, you know, it's becoming too much, this Lady Sarah is too much, she should, sat with me, concerned, and said, talk to your sister. Talk to your sister. Mwambie hii dunia hawezi beba venye anataka kubeba. Aache hii kazi venye afanya kisirani. He since departed, may God rest his soul. And of course, if I conveyed a message like that to Sarah Serem, she was never going to stop.
Plus, you've actually said you've lost a lot of friends along the way because of your job. How hard has it been for you personally?
It's been very tough. Seriously, balancing between the demands that are coming in. You're talking about the scope. You have several interests, and indeed many other personalities coming into play, and each of them demanding based on their own personal interests. And you know, when they come in as to SRC, they are looking at themselves as individuals, but as a commission, we were looking at the totality of the public sector. But I would be quick to mention, saying that this kind of toughened. It gave me an experience that was like no other, and I personally would not regret going through the exercise I went.
Did anybody, you don't have to mention names, but ever try to reach you personally, angry with you or angry with the commission?
Of course, not once, many times. I have had people who point at me and literally say, "This is the woman," you know, and I think the beauty about is the fact that I did not internalize any of those approaches. There were many threats, but I think we've lived beyond that. Okay,
and many accolades for you, of course, for those who say you really managed to run this commission well, a close-knit commission and cohesive commission despite the pressures, including especially political pressures.
Right.
What would you then finally advise commissioners or the next batch of commissioners that will be in SRC, or the ones that will succeed you?
Yeah, we did quite a bit in creating awareness. I would tell you as of now, even a young child in school knows what salaries and remuneration is all about. We traversed this country. We went to all the counties, and the issue of knowledge and awareness is on a serious note above. I think the next commission needs to focus on issues of productivity. It would be nice to elevate the issue of productivity so that, you know, it becomes the other angle of focusing on the reduction of the wage bill. And I would also perhaps at this point also make a request that we need to put a system and probably cap the revenue, wage bill to revenue at all levels, including at the counties, because that is put and anchored in law, so that Treasury can only release funds that goes to pay within certain limits, and anything beyond that should not be funded. I think we have to be serious about this, otherwise it's going to be a very difficult and challenging exercise to undertake.
And have it in law, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be in law
okay.
for protection.
What next for you then? We had Deputy President Ruto suggesting you should be considered for a job in government. Do you have any preference, or what next for you?
I didn't know about SRC. I stepped in, not that there was anybody else ahead of us, and managed to do the job. I think I am prepared to do anything that I am offered, if I am offered. Otherwise, I have a family. During this period of time, 6 years down the line, I have 5 grandchildren. I think I want to spend time with them. So either way, I am comfortable, whether in job or not. I think I would wish to spend some time also to relax.
All right, thank you so much. SRC outgoing chair, Sarah Serem, still chair until December 15th.
Yes, still chair.
But thank you so much, and thank you for making time for us. Remember, we are asking you tonight, do you think the SRC has lived up to its expectations? Keep talking to us. The hashtag is the big question on Twitter. You can text us on 22422. Thank you for your time. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you. We're back after this break.